Test, test. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good day. I hope everyone is in a good condition, healthy, and free of any illness. So today we're going to have guest lecture which entitled to Microbiology Method Validation, Enumeration, Pathogen Identification, Rapid Method, which will be delivered by our guest lecturer, which is Sir Franky Rimawan, Apotheker S Farm. So this power talk is presented via I3L. Through Zoom, it will be entitled for from 2 p.m., which is now, until around 3:45. Yeah, this will be our agenda for today. So we're going to start with the opening. So we're going to talk a little bit about our speaker. As you may have known, there is a saying in Indonesian, tak kenal maka tak sayang. So let's talk a little bit about our speaker. Next, please. So before we start, however, there are several rules which should be followed by everyone's joining our today's power talk, which as can be seen here. However, I'm still going to mention it. So first, attendees are prohibited to activate audio during the power talk session, unless, of course, when you're going to ask when we are having our question and answer session. Yeah. Secondly, attendees are allowed to use chat feature to ask questions. So let's say you are scared to, you are afraid that if you wait until the question and answer session that you might forget your questions. You might always drop your question in the chat room, and later it will be answered by our guest lecturer. And lastly, at the end of this power talk session, there will be an evaluation survey which attendees and you who are attending this power talk is hopefully expecting to fill in the evaluation surveys. Next, please. Yeah, as I mentioned before, in bahasa tak kenal maka tak sayang. So here's our generous speaker today, which is Sir Franky Rimawan S Farm. Franky, I hope you don't mind being called sir, because everyone who's giving a lecture will be called sir here. So Franky Rimawan is a dear friend of mine, which I know back then when I was working in his second workplace, Dexa Medical Site Cikarang. Although we were in a different department. So Franky Rimawan has two working experience, three with the one he's working right now. He was a QC supervisor at PT Vinusol Prima International, which is a Kalbe Pharma group, which lasts for around 3 years from 2013 to 2016. And he was where I was working before, a microbiologist at PT Dexa Medica inside Cikarang. It was for 5 years in 2016 and 2021. And now he very recently he just moved to a different workplace, which is PT Apofavors and Fragrances. Yeah, right now. As you can see, he works a lot as a QC supervisor and QC officer. So we are very fortunate to have him talk about his experiences during analytical method validation, especially in microbiology. And he also graduated from he graduated from University of Sanata Dharma in Yogyakarta, bachelor in pharmacy, and also finished his apothecary professional degree. Okay, that's that's all from me. Let's continue without further ado. Let's go to Sir Franky. Please go ahead. The screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fandi. Is it my voice clear? Anybody can hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for the introduction and thank you for this great opportunity. And good afternoon, everyone. I am Franky Rimawan. as you can see in my background from the introduction, I am an apothecary professional, and I have 8 years working experience working in pharmaceutical industries as quality control and also a microbiologist. In this moment, I have the chance to share my experience and knowledge about validation of microbiological method. It is an interesting but also an uncommon topic, I think, especially if we compare it to chemical method validation. But it plays an equally important role in the establishment of valid method that will be used in R&D, research development, or routine QC testing. So, is anybody, everyone here is from pharmacy? Wait, I will share my screen.
So Frankie, I think you are
So
muted.
Frankie, I think you are muted.
Okay. Everyone can hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sorry for the trouble. So let's continue. The content of my presentation is, the first one is importance of validation and verification. The next is validation parameters, validation of enumeration, validation of pathogen identification, and then the validation of rapid method. So first of all, I want to know about a little more about my audience here. Does anyone can help me to explain about the validation, verification, and the difference between them? Anybody can help me?
Just call one name, so Frankie.
Okay. Yes, I do have a list of names here. Lavisioni Gracius. Is he or she here? Do you mind to help me explain a little bit about validation and verification?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes? Sorry, what should I call you? Lavisioni?
VC. VC.
Lavisi? VC? Okay, VC. Can you help me to explain a little bit about validation and verification, just from your expectation or experience?
Yeah, I think usually verification is for example, for method, like it's for methods that are already compendial method or well-established method. So you just need to do verification. But if it's new, you need to do validation.
Yes. Maybe what's the purpose of the validation?
To ensure that the method or instrument can perform according as it what it purports to do, according to its purpose, like intended purpose.
Yes, okay, very good. Thank you, VC, for your brief explanation. And then, does anyone can help me about the difference about chemical and microbiology method validation? Maybe Owen Krisvian Wijaya is here.
I don't think Owen is here.
Oh, okay. Let me pick another. How about Shakila Anjaya Adianto?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you. What should I call you, Shakila?
Shakila is fine, sir.
Okay. So, do you mind to help me explain a little bit about the difference in chemical and microbial method validation?
Wait, sir. Let me think for a moment.
Okay, take your time.
I think the difference is only in the sample. So for chemical it's for just for a chemical sample, while microbial is for bacteria or others microbiological sample.
Okay, thank you, Shakila, for the explanation. Yes, VC and Shakila is definitely right about the explanation. The validation is a process to obtain evidence of valid parameters in the studied method before we use it in routine analysis. It is crucial because valid method is a requirement to produce a valid data in our analysis. While verification is a process to ensure that the established reference method is applicable in our lab and can fulfill the needs in the analytical purpose. And the difference between chemical versus the microbial method validation. For the chemical validation, it is have a certain numbers and mostly normal distribution in its data. But while in microbiology validation, we have living particle dispersed in medium as our sample. So the raw data cannot directly use with basic statistics. We will discuss about this further later in the next slide. So next we will talk about the stable. We have the explanation about the gap in validation or verification. In the method use, in validation, we use the modified reference method. which means if you take the method from USP, from Pharmacope or ISO, and then you modify certain parameters like the instrument use or the incubation period or the sample inoculation, then you will need to do the full validation. And also it will apply to in-house and self-developed method, obviously. Because you develop the method yourself, there is no reference, there is no valid data to support that the method can be used to do its original purpose. So you need to do the full validation. While in the verification, the method used is unmodified reference method. You can take the method from Pharmacope, from ISO, from anything, from journal maybe, but the method reference is done in their lab, right? So before we take the method to apply in our lab, we have to verify the method. Is it capable to do what it will be supposed to do? Okay. And then for the purpose, the validation purpose is validate its parameters to fulfill the purpose and requirements. While the verification, we verify the capabilities of the method to fulfill the purpose and requirements. And for the parameters in validation, the validation have more parameters than the verification. In verification, we only do the critical parameters, not the full parameters like in validation. So next we have the reference microbes, because this is about the microbiological method validation, right? So we have to use the reference microbe as our standards. In validation, we must confirm identity of reference microbes by plating, microscopic, staining, or the rapid method to ensure that the strain that we use is have the proper purity, identity, and also viability. While in the verification, we just confirm the viability of reference microbes by plating. It can be done in non-selective or selective medium. And then next we have the verification of identification result. This means that when we do the verification of identification method, like when we want to know that is it an E. coli in our plate, is it an Salmonella in our plate, that's what we call identification. Then we must verify the presumptive positive and negatives. While in the verification, we only verify the presumptive positive. What is presumptive positives and negatives? We will talk about it later in the next slide, okay? And then next, this is the validation parameters and verification parameters. In full validation, we have accuracy or relative recovery. The accuracy and relative recovery, we only do that when we validate the enumeration method. Also apply to the precision parameters. The precision consists of repeatability, intermediate precision, and reproducibility. And then the next one is matrix effect. And then sensitivity, specificity for identification. Also efficiency for identification. The next is acceptable counting range and robustness. While in the verification, we don't have to do the acceptable counting range for enumeration and robustness. We just need to do the accuracy, precision for enumeration, and then sensitivity, specificity, efficiency for identification method. Next, this is what I explained before in the introduction. Poisson distribution. Unlike chemical analytical methods, many of the performance attributes of culture methods are based on particle distribution. An example is distribution of microorganisms. As defined by the Poisson distribution, or where over-dispersion occurs, often in environmental waters because of clumping or simply natural variability of target microbes, using a negative binomial distribution model. Because of the often skewed distribution of target microbes in waters, when using methods that are based on normally of count data, it is generally necessary to convert the data to log base 10 or in other ways transform, but the convert to log base 10 is the easiest, I think, to meet basic statistical assumption when describing metrics such as mean and standard deviation. So in the slide here, we have the top one, the curve. The top curve is normally distributed data. This is when we do the chemical validation. Because the data is normally distributed, when it is plotted to a curve, a linear curve, it will produce a linear or straight line when we have the plot. But when we have skewed data here on the bottom one, we have this Poisson distribution curve. So when we take it to the plot, it will not be a linear or straight line. It will be a near sigmoid line, I think. Okay, so we cannot just take the raw data from microbiological count to use it in basic statistical formula like RSD or coefficient of variation of mean or average. We should convert the data to log base 10 first to produce the normally distributed data right here. Okay. So the next one, the first step in validation, whether it is enumeration, identification, or rapid method, the first one is concentration screening. It must be done to obtain viable count information of all strain dilution used in the study. If the viable count of reference strain is unknown, used to determine the concentration levels of each strain. How we do that? We inoculate a portion, example, a loop full of reference strain obtained from prepared bacterial lawn or slant agar to 100 milliliter general purpose broth medium. This will be called the stock solution. Normally, we use the tryptic soy broth or TSB, or we can also use the selective broth like MCB or McConkey broth for the E. coli. And then we make serial dilutions based on the 1 to 10 fold each for a predetermined concentration range. Example, 0 dilution to minus 9 dilution here. From the concentration screening, the result of the data we insert it to a table, just like this. We do the 0 dilution to minus 9 dilution. We will get the data like this. The TNTC is too numerous to count. When the colonies on the plate is too crowded, you can count it, right? When you must count it, then it will be many errors there. So we write it, the result as TNTC or too numerous to count. And for when the colonies don't grow in the agar plate, then we insert in the table as less than 1. Okay. So the next one is the first parameter, the accuracy. Accuracy means the ability of the method to measure the actual or true value of the analyte. An example, the target microorganisms. If an analyte is naturally present in a sample or is deliberately spiked into the sample as part of challenge or proficiency test, then the method must be able to detect or recover that analyte at the correct concentration or frequency to be considered accurate. It is represented by relative recovery of spike culture count versus pure culture count. And the acceptance criteria generally for accuracy is 70% to 130% for medium and high concentration levels, and 50 to 200% for low concentration levels. This is also the difference between chemical and microbiological method validation. In chemical validation, you won't get this great range of acceptance criteria, right? You can ask Mr. Fandi. The acceptance criteria range is about 99% to 102 or 90% to 110 in the maximum. But when we talk about microbiology, there's so many factors that contribute to the colony count, right? So the range and acceptance criteria will be broader when we compare to chemical method validation. So next, we have precision. Precision is the degree of agreement among individual test results when the method is applied repeatedly to multiple samplings of a homogenized sample. The precision of an analytical method is usually expressed as relative standard deviation, or we can also convert it to the more common coefficient of variation of a series measurements. So there is the precision is consists of the three different kind. Okay, the first one is repeatability, the second one is intermediate precision, and the third one is reproducibility. When we talk about repeatability, we use the same laboratory, we use the same method, same analysis, and same equipment, but we do the analysis or the count, the colony count, in the same or short difference of time interval. When we have intermediate precision, we have same laboratory, same method, but with different analysis, equipment, or time interval. Okay. And finally, for the reproducibility, we have different lab, same method, different analysis, equipment, and time interval. This is also apply when we want to qualify the lab, right? When we have a standard lab and then we create a new lab, we must compare the lab to make the result analysis for the both lab is valid, right? So we should compare the both lab to, then it is called the reproducibility. Okay, next, this is the formula for precision in microbiology validation. If you see it, maybe it is like very complicated, right? But when we discuss about the example later, I think that will be much easier to understand about this formula. Okay. So the P here is the number of duplicate determination of the number of the tests, and I is just numbers, right? The analyze 1, analyze 2, plate 1, plate 2, and so on. Okay. Next, the precision. How we do the precision parameters. We use the 3 replication for 3 different concentration levels of each analysis. By means, it is the intermediate precision when we compare 2 different analyses. The low concentration is the LOD of the method, or limit of detection. The medium concentration is LOD plus log 10, and the high concentration is LOD plus log 100. The medium concentration level only to be applied for quantitative method. So when you do the identification method, it is a qualitative method, right? So you don't have to do the medium concentration level. And then for the 3 different kind of precision, for the repeatability, you do with same analysis. For the intermediate precision, you do with different analysis. And the reproducibility, you do in different lab and different analysis. And the acceptance criteria for the precision is not more than 10%. That is when we call a good precision or precise method. Okay, next we have matrix effect. The purpose of matrix effects is to obtain information about the effect of sample matrix to the analysis result. In example, some matrix, especially the natural ingredient sample, could have bacteriostatic or bactericidal effects that will be produced by yes analysis result. And then matrix effects is obtained by using sample matrix spike with known concentration of reference microbes. Its example in low, medium, or high level spike. And then the sample matrix firstly could be sterilized by autoclaving, filtering through 0.2 micrometers membrane to reduce the random errors to counting result. When we use the unsterilized sample matrix, you could use unsterilized sample matrix, but it will be expected more random error place. Sample microbial count added with spiked count of reference microbes. But we must take into consideration before sterilizing sample matrix, ensure the sterilization treatment won't change the sample characteristics. When we can do the sterilization of sample, then we just use the unsterilized sample matrix. The example is here in the table. When we use the sterilized sample, the sample will be in 0 count, right? There is no bacteria, there is no microbe there, so the count is 0. When you spike the sample and the total count is 65, and then you get the spike or real count, also 65. But when your sample is not sterilized or unsterilized, the sample very likely will contain microbes, right? And then in example here, we have 20 in the unsterilized sample count. And then we spike the sample, then we get 85 in the count. And then we must subtract that to get the spike or real count. Because the original count in the sample is 20, then the spike and real count is 65. Okay, next. The next one is sensitivity and specificity. Sensitivity is fraction of the total number of true positive correctly assigned in the presumptive inspection. Specificity is fraction of the total number of true negatives correctly assigned in the presumptive inspection. For the false negative and false positive, I think that everyone will know about this, right? The fraction of observed positive wrongly assigned and the fraction of observed negatives wrongly assigned. In primary validation, all presumptive positive and presumptive negative culture should be verified with the confirmation test. We could explain more in the example later, right? So the validation should include natural samples studied over a period of time. But in secondary validation or verification, you just confirm the presumptive positive colonies. Okay, next. In here, we have the table The sensitivity and specificity, as I explained before, it just only apply for the identification method or the qualitative method, right? So in this table, the presumptive count is the first test to identify the microbes. But the presumptive test itself, it cannot validly prove that the bacteria is there, because the presumptive reagent or biochemical reagent we use in the test is not quite specific. So we must do the next test that is called the confirmative or confirm test. And then to read the table, we do this. The presumptive count, positive, the A side of the table here, it is presumptive positive, and then confirm positive in the confirmative test. For the B side here, we have the presumptive negative. So the first test is negative, but when we confirm it with the confirmatory test, the result turns out to be positive. Then we take the data to this side of the table. And the C here is presumptive positive test, positive, but confirm negative in the confirmative test. And finally, the D side is the presumptive negative, confirm negative in the confirmation test. So we could say the B and the C here, the B is the false negative, the C is the false positive. Okay. So below the table is the performance characteristic can be calculated from this formula. Okay. The total number of tests is the summary of A, B, C, and D. Okay, next. The next one is efficiency. The purpose of efficiency is to measure the selectiveness, the capability of the method to differentiate target strain and non-target strain, indicated by confirmed positive compared to the total test. It is calculated by the sum of true positive and true negatives divided by the total test. The acceptance criteria for efficiency is same or more than 0 and 90. So for the efficiency, we just divide the A side of the table here with the D side. Okay, then we got the efficiency. The next is acceptable counting range. The accuracy of the estimate of viable colony count is affected by number of colonies plated. As the number of viable cells plated increase, crowding effects decrease the accuracy of the count, reducing the estimate. But when the number decreases, the random error plays an increasing role in the estimate. So when we count on or when we read the plate, when the plate is too crowded, you will feel that your count is not too accurate, right? Because there's so many colony in there, you kind of have a difficulties to differentiate between 1, 2, or 3 colonies there. And in the small amount colonies of the plate, there will be random errors because the microbes could grow in the plate or not grow at all. Okay, so it is the random error playing in the small number of count. The accepted range for counting of bacterial and or yeast colonies on the standard agar plate is, such as for food and pharmaceutical, is between 25 and 250, and for wet water is 30 to 300. And the recommended counting range for most modes, which mean the fungi, such as Aspergillus niger, is between 8 and 80 colonies per plate. Okay, if you do the full validation, to determine high counting threshold, pick a level of concentration screening that are not too crowded to count to reduce the counting errors as low as possible. Usually it is around 250 for bacterial and 50 to 80 for mold count. Also depends on how dark the plate after application of sample. It means that your sample color or characteristic is not always white or transparent like. You may have a dark sample like brown or black or blue sample. Then when you do the test, do the plate in agar, it will produce a darker agar plate, right? So when this happens, maybe the higher counting range is not 200 on 250, maybe only 100, maybe only 150. It is depends on the situation, okay? But just pick a level of concentration screening that are not too crowded to count, and you can count it and confident about the result, okay? While the lower counting threshold for greatest dilution plating must be justified. Numbers of colonies on plate follow the Poisson distribution, like I explained before, okay? So therefore, the mean numbers of CFU per plate becomes lower. The percentage error of estimate will be increased, like described in the table. The error allowed for bacterial count and yeast count, for example, is no more than 20% of the count itself, corresponding to the lower limit of 25 colony forming units per plate for food and pharmaceutical products. So in the table here, we see the 25 CFU per plate here. The standard error is 5 and the error percent for the mean is 20%. This is mostly the most common acceptable count range for the lower threshold. If you go greater than this, it is not recommended. But when you go lower than this, pay attention about the error here. The error will be increased, right? So even in the 1 CFU per plate here, you have 100% error, okay? So it will be, because it is grow or no growth there. So the error will be 100%. Okay, so don't use very small numbers. Don't use too great numbers. Okay, for the counting range. Sorry. And then for the robustness of an analytical method is a measure of its capacity to remain unaffected by small but deliberate variation in method parameters, and provide of its reliability during the normal or routine usage. Standard methods for enumeration of total viable count of general microbial population and target organisms specify limits of incubation temperature and time. In example here, quote, incubate at 30 to 35 degrees Celsius for 18 to 24 hours. It is a range, right? Some of these limits are set to a wide range to cover the practices currently in use in different laboratories and countries. For example, the example here, I take it from the USP, the US Pharmacopoeia, okay? But the USP, it will be used not only in America, right? Even in Indonesia here, some people or many people use USP as the reference, right? So the USP set the range for incubation and the time of incubation to a wide range to cover this. Okay, the user laboratory should test the robustness of the method starting at the extreme upper and lower limits of the specified incubation temperature and time. So for the robustness here, you can test for the incubation, you can test for in 30 degrees Celsius and 35 degrees Celsius. Okay. Statistical analysis for significance, such as student t-test, can be used for comparisons of the two means of parallel plate counts obtained from the two extreme incubation time or incubation temperature. Other areas for the test for robustness, such as variation in sample storage condition, sample matrix, and sample preparation may be considered if it is relevant to what will be you're doing in your lab. Okay. So the next is the example here. The validation of enumeration. First of all, we do the concentration screening here. Okay. Sorry for the. Oh, the number is not displaying correctly. Hold on a second. I think I will open the PDF one. Okay, this is the right slide. For the first, we do the concentration screening. We take one loop of reference strain, and then we add it to both sterile bottle or vessel, and then we add 100 milliliters of general purpose broth like tryptic soy broth here, and then we call this solution a stock solution or the zero dilution here, and then we take 1 milliliters of this solution to 3 different agar plates, and then we use the pour plate method to pour the TSA or tryptic soy agar medium here in each plate, approximately about 15 milliliters. And then we do the next dilution. We take 1 milliliter samples from zero dilution and then add 9 milliliters of tryptic soy broth. We call this the -1 dilution. We do the same plating method in the triplicates here with the same agar, the tryptic soy agar. And then we do the next and so on with the dilution covered in 1 to 10 portion for the each dilution. And then we homogenize all the plate by moving it in H-shape patterns right here. Sorry if it is not a good drawings, but I hope this can describe what we actually gonna do. We homogenize the plate. We move the plate here, and then there, like creating 8 numbers. Okay. And then let media solidify, and then it could incubate it at 30 to 35 degrees Celsius for 72 hours in upside down plate. I think it is a common practice, right, to do the upside down incubation to reduce the factors from the vapor in the plate. Okay. And then count each plate with colony counter, or also you can do this manually. Okay. You are not must do with it colony counter, but you can also do this manually. Okay, for the next, we have the table here. So the result from the concentration screening activities we did here, we insert the data to the table. Like I explained before, it will be right here in the table. Then we get the -4, -5, and -6 dilution as the appropriate counting range. We call the -4 dilution as the the high concentration levels, the -5 dilution as medium concentration levels, and the -6 dilution as the low concentration levels. Because the greater dilution, we will produce less colonies, right, in the plate. Okay, then we use these three levels to the next step to determine the other parameters. Okay, we do the accuracy and precision by spiking. Only transfer the chosen concentration level into plates. So from the table here, we just use these three levels. Okay, you don't need to plate the -0 to -3 dilution. You don't need to plate the -7 to -9 dilution. You just use the three levels here, okay, for the spike. Then you have 10 grams of sterilized sample here in example, and then add 90 milliliters of TSB. This is the stock sample solution, and then you do the serial dilution like before. Okay, and add 1 milli. Oh, sorry, this is 1 milli. 1 milli reference strain, right, from this level. Okay, so you add the -3 dilution of the stock reference, and then you add here to produce the -4 dilution. Okay, and then you do the same for the next 2 dilution, and then you just do the pour plate method like before. Homogenize in H-shaped pattern. Let media solidify and incubate at 30 to 35 degrees Celsius for 72 hours. Oh, okay, I haven't mentioned, right? I take this method, this example from the USP 44, I think. Okay, so next you count each plate with colony counter, and then you get the data for accuracy and precision. Then we take the data in this table. First of all, we have two analyses, the A analysis and the B analysis here. Each analyst will do the method for each concentration level, the low, the medium, and the high concentration level for each analyst. They do it in triplicate, and with each triplicate, they do it in duplo plate or in two agar plate. Okay, and then for analyst A here, just look at the first row here. Don't mind about the next row. Okay. In plate 1, analyst A in low concentration level produce 7 as the count here. Okay. So you take the logarithmic of this number, then you get the 0.84 here. Okay, as the logarithmic from 7. You do that for the second plate, the same way. Okay, and then you take the mean of the first and the second plate logarithmic. Then you have the mean. Okay, and also you subtract the logarithmic plate 2 and plate 1 here, then you get the difference. And then you divide the difference to the mean. Okay, you get this number here, and then you square it to the final column here. Then you produce this number. Okay, just do that for every row. Okay, row 1 to row 18. Okay, and then you sum this all up, then you get this row, summary of different mean square. Okay, you get this number, and then you the summary here is the top side of the formula here. Okay, and you just divide this number with 2 multiply the number of tests. The number of tests in this table is 18, right? And then you multiply it by 2, then you get the 36. Just divide this row with 36, and then you get the RSD. Okay, and you just convert the RSD to percentage, and then you get the coefficient of variance here. This is the 51% coefficient of variation, which is a good method, right? The acceptance criteria is below or not more than 10%, okay? And then we also use the same data to count the repeatability of analysis A. Just do the same way like before, but just take the data from analysis A, not for analysis B. And then you can count the repeatability also for the analysis B here. Just use the analysis B in the table row before, okay? And then you also could count the recovery percent here. Then it is the same data. You can plate 1, you take the log. Plate 2, you take the log, and then you count the recovery by divide it to the non-spike count log. The non-spike count log is delivered from this, right? The original count. The original count, you can use it from the concentration screening table. Okay, in the previous table. Here, you can use this number as the non-spike count. Okay, you just put it in this table. And then you can have the recovery count here. Okay, do the same for the analysis A and B in its level of concentration. And then next is the validation for identification method. In this example, we use the identification of E. coli. I also take the method from USP 44. Okay, just we do the similar way like in the enumeration. Just take one loop strain. You can also take it from the SLAN agar here, and add 100 milliliters of TSB. This is a stock culture, okay, the same one as in the enumeration. You do the same, and let media solidify, incubate, and count its plate. Okay, so it will be produced the same table, right? But in this time, we don't use the medium level concentration, because in the validation of identification, we only need 2 levels of concentration, the lower one and the higher one. Okay, so you could ignore the medium one here. Okay, and then you take the level of concentration here to do the presumptive test. Okay, so you take 1 milli of stock culture in here. You take 1 milli from this, okay, and then you add 9 milliliters of MCB. This is the specific broth for E. coli or Enterobacteria, and then you call this the -1 dilution. And then our target concentration is -4 dilution and -6 dilution, right? So you just do this until you get -4 and -6 dilution. Okay, and then you incubate it at 44 degrees Celsius for 24 hours, and then you streak it, take one loop from its tube, and then streak it in the MCA plate. MCA is McConkey agar. It is the specific agar for E. coli and Enterobacter. Okay, and then you incubate at 30 to 35 for 72 hours in upside down plate, and then you, because it is in identification method, you just identify red to violet colonies as a colony of E. coli. So it is a presumptive positive if you get this. Okay, and then you do the confirmative test. Remember, for the validation, you must confirm all the presumptive colonies, whether it is positive or negative. But in the verification, you just confirm the presumptive positive colonies. Okay. In example here, we do the confirmation test for E. coli with MRVP test and indole test. In MRVP test, the test is about fermentation of glucose. Okay, so if the microbe is capable of fermentation of glucose, then the medium will turn red here. The reaction is here. Okay, so when you have glucose and the microbes turn it into pyruvic acid or another acid, could be lactic acid, okay, and the pH will drops, okay, and then the indicator in the medium will be turn red. That will be the positive test for MRVP, okay. And then the next one is the indole test. We do both of these tests together, right, to determine whether the microbes have tryptophanase activity. Okay, the reaction is here. If the microbes could have tryptophanase activity, then it will be producing indole. The indole is shown here with the red ring in the tube. Okay, this red ring is the indole compound. Okay, so if the indole test is positive, then you will get this red ring in the tube. Okay, so we take the presumptive and confirmative test result to this table. Okay. In this example, you have 20 presumptive positive and 0 presumptive negative. So turns out the spike sample, all of the sample produce the presumptive positive in the presumptive test. Okay. And it will it produce 0 confirmative negative here, and produce also the confirmative negative in here. Presumptive negative, it's 6, and when you take the tube, you confirm it, you get 6 confirmative negative, also called the true negative. Okay. Then we can count each of the parameters. Okay. Sensitivity, you use this formula, you get the 100%. Specificity, you get 100%. If the method is not good, okay, you have, in example, if you have the false negative here, let's say it is 5, and then this will be not 100%, both of this parameter, okay, because there's false negative in your method. But if the method is good or is valid, then you get 100% count here in sensitivity and specificity. It means that the method could determine the true positive and true negative correctly. Okay. So the false negative rate and false positive rate will be 0 because there's no false negative and false positive, and the number of tests here is 26. Okay. So the next is validation of rapid method. The new or rapid microbial AD systems are usually tested for accuracy and precision, or in general repeatability. The end user should establish suitable acceptance criteria for each, taking into account the ID's method specific capabilities. For example, the ID system may not be able to identify and isolate because the organism is not included in the database. Okay, maybe I should explain how the rapid method works. Okay, so here we have the EnteroTube. It is name of a product. Okay. In this EnteroTube, we usually introduce the sample in one of the ends here, whether it's the left end or the right end here, and then the sample will have a reaction in its well. Okay, like the real pic is the right side of the picture. Okay, it has many wells. Okay, the blue is the sample, and then the sample will flow throughout its well in the EnteroTube, and then it will produce reaction in its well. Okay, in each well, we have different reagent that indicates different reaction, okay, biochemically, like the indole and MRVP before. This is a biochemical process, right? If it has tryptophan activity, then it is a red ring form. Okay, it is the same here, but in its well, we have all the reagents, the different reagents to do the reaction, all the reaction in the same time. Okay, so after the reaction is done or it is incubated, then we take the well, the whole enterotube, to this machine, the readers or the scanners. Okay, place the well here, and then the machine will translate it and compare it to the database, the microbial database. Okay, so this machine here have the database of each microbe strain. Okay, most of the microbe strain, and then when in example, when we have E. coli, E. coli will produce positive in indole and MRVP test, right? And then when we have indole positive and MRVP positive in the well, then the machine will translate it as E. coli positive. Okay, so it is not done manually by operators or analysts. Okay, so let us continue. The system parameters are not sufficiently comprehensive to identify the organisms, or the isolate may be non-reactive in the system. It means that maybe the strain is non-reactive to one or more of the reagents here, or the species may not have been taxonomically described. It is happen when you usually have unknown strain, and then or unknown microbes, and then you put it in the enterotube. The scanner maybe does not have the database or taxonomy of the microbes, then you have an error or no result from the machine. Okay, so the next one is the enumeration here. This is the rapid enumeration method. We have the conventional incubation. Then after incubation ends, the machine will read or scan the colonies and count all the colonies there. Okay, so it is not done by analysts. Okay, so for both the method, first of all, the identification here, the critical parameters are limit of detection, the lowest number of microorganisms detectable in sample matrix. LOD is determined by spiking method or inoculating sample like we done it before, and then confirm inoculation by plate counts. Also, the critical parameter is sensitivity and specificity. Sensitivity is how the method successfully detect all true positive, specific for the spike strain, and then specificity is how the method successfully detect all true negatives, not showing mixed detection with another strain or non-target strain. Okay, because it is an identification. And then next in the enumeration, we have the critical parameters LOQ as the limit of quantitation. Okay, it is also determined by spiking method. And the next critical parameters is accuracy and precision. We do this by comparing rapid method count result versus the established validated conventional method in the CV count and the recovery count, using the same number of samples and reference strain. Okay, that is for the rapid method. It is quite simple, but in the practical, maybe many factors in the machine that we could not validate, but at least we could validate the critical parameters here. Okay, so this is the reference that I use for this slide. If you want to explore more about this topic. Okay, so maybe it is finished, and it is from me. Thank you. And I hope that you have some insights from my presentation. maybe we continue with Q&A sessions, maybe, Mr. Fandi.
Okay, thank you, Sir Frankie. That was a very great explanation about microbiology. I myself learned a lot. I have to say
Okay.
that I have a lot of experience in analytical method validation, but this is something which is completely different,
Okay.
compared to the chemical. Yeah, I am familiar with the chemical analytical method validation, but yeah, this is very different, completely different, I have to say. Okay, let's without further ado, let's start with the question and answer. We might have a lot of questions, maybe some
Okay.
of our students. Is there any question? If you are not confident in speaking directly, you can just type in the chat room. Yeah, and you open the chat that we're having. Okay, if there's no question, I do have several questions actually. When you're explaining about precision, it's mentioned that there are low, medium, and high concentration levels, and you did mention that for medium concentration level, it is used for quantitative analysis. But what about the high concentration levels then?
Oh, sorry. Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
So in the precision, I think I can be the one sharing the screen, so maybe you can get the answer. Okay. So when we're talking about the precision here, medium concentration level only to be applied for quantitative method. However, we do have three levels, which are low concentration, medium, and high. I assume that with the chemical method validation, these low concentrations are for qualitative level. But how about the high concentration? Is it also applicable for quantitative method, or are we supposed to dilute this high concentration?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Yes, it is quite different, right, with the chemical method. I think we should dilute the sample first and the standards to match the low concentration, medium, and high. Okay.
So if we got a high concentration, can we use it, or do we need to dilute it to make it a medium concentration?
Oh, we do it in the same time. Okay. So the low, medium, high concentration, we use serial dilution to produce those levels. Okay. So you just take the lower dilution as the high concentration and the greater dilution as the low level of concentration.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
practically you dilute the higher concentration to the medium and low. Okay, so practically this right.
Okay, so high concentration is not used.
The higher concentration is used. So when we have three different concentration levels here, like in the concentration screening table, maybe you could show it to us.
Which one?
I think it is the before the next sorry, the next slide.
This.
Nah, okay. In this table, we have -4 dilution as the lower dilution. Okay, so we have the higher count there,
yes,
the 187 and so on. And then we we take this as the high concentration levels. And then for the medium concentration levels, you take the -5 dilution, and for the lowest concentration, you take the -6 dilution. So it is done in the same time, okay, from the stock solution or the zero dilution, the leftmost in the table, leftmost column. And then you just repeatedly use serial dilution to produce the next dilution until you get the 3 different level of concentration.
Okay. Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Is there any other question from the others? If it's hard for you to speak in English or to talk in English, you are also free to ask in Indonesia. It's okay. While waiting, I still have another question. Still about the precision. Let's go back to the precision. Where is it? Yeah, there are
Okay.
3 precision levels here: repeatability, intermediate precision, and reproducibility. And I noticed that for the equipments, it is said that we use a different equipment for intermediate precision and reproducibility. Assuming that you have the plate reader, which you showed at the end of the presentation, does that mean that for this intermediate precision and reproducibility, you are using a different plate reader, or you have, let's say, we have more than one plate reader and we just use a different plate reader? Does it have to be different, or it is okay if in the end it's just the same instrument?
Okay. An example for intermediate precision, it is this table is optional. Okay, so different analysis, different equipment, different time interval. It is you could just pick one factor or variable of difference. You don't have to use the different analysis, equipment, and time interval. You could pick only different analysis but same equipment, or different analysis but same time interval and equipment. It is okay for intermediate precision, but at least you should do the different analysis. Okay, so because in intermediate precision, we want to know about when our lab has more than one analyst. It's quite common, right? Analyst B and A, does the results from both analysts are valid, or only the first analyst are valid, or the second one? So we just do the intermediate precision for both analysts there, and then we could state that the method is valid for both analysts. Okay, so when we have a rapid method like the last slide, we can do the different equipment if you have the 2 different scanners. But if you have one equipment, it is okay if you want to just do the different time interval or different analysis. Okay, so the instrument or the machine there is just for scan or reading the count, right? But the analysis is done by different analysts, okay? Not done by the machine, okay? So the machine is just for reading or count or scanning. Then you can pick the different analysis and as an option, but same equipment, it is okay.
Okay, I understand. Oh, okay, so that's how it goes. Okay, that's already 2 questions for me. Is there any question from the audience? I have to say that, as I mentioned before, they are very different than chemical, but in principle, like accuracy, precision, and so on, they're much more similar. So I kind of have like, they have like a 60 to 80% similarity. It's just that the data analysis and the data interpretation are completely different. The examples that you are given here are for identification of E. coli. Does this mean that for any other microbiology, there are identification tests or only for several types of microbiology?
It is based on the regulation that we use. Okay, so when in Indonesia we have an example pharmaceutical industry or pharmaceutical lab, the regulation we use is generally BPOM or Ministry of Health. Okay, so if the regulation state that we should control the limit of bacteria or the limit of certain strain like E. coli or Salmonella or S. aureus, and then we should do the test and the validation or verification of the method. But when we work or when we do it in different industries like food, maybe the strain requirements is quite different, right? So we just align the needs of validation or verification with those regulation.
Okay, so we are following whatever is said. Yeah, you have to test this, then yeah, we have to validate that and so on. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's all from me actually, but let's wait for around 1 to 2 minutes, expecting any questions from the audiences.
Okay.
You can also ask questions to the audience, I think, assuming that they pay attention to the class. Okay, it's free, yeah, so it's a great opportunity. It's not everyday opportunity that you can get the question. There's a question from Nicholas. Hello, Kak Frankie, or someone called you Kak, not sir. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay,
What,
okay.
there's
It's
a
okay.
question. Why do we use Poisson distribution for CFU error rates? Any reason why that distribution in particular?
Okay. Thank you for the question.
So I'm going to...
The Poisson distribution is uncommon in statistics, but it is actually quite used in some of the statistics method, especially in practical statistics. As I explained before, in the microbiological method validation, or when we do microbiological method, the result will be microbiological count or microbiological growth. Okay. So in the microbiology concept, the microbes is living things, right? That's not dead. Okay. So we count the viable colonies, the colonies that alive and grow. Okay. So when we count those living things, we cannot control how they move, how they disperse, how they clustered in our sample. Okay, not like the chemical one. The chemical one is we work with dead things, right? So when the particle is there, it is there. Okay, it will not be moved as long as we don't transfer it to another place or another vessel maybe. But the microbes is a living things, right? So it can move here and there, and it is in statistic it is treated as a particle or dispersion or particle distribution. So because of that, then when we plot it to the data directly to the curve to produce a curve, then we get this bottom curve, the skewed data. Okay, and then when we plot those data to variable x and y as response and control, and then we will not have a linear line. We will have maybe sigmoid or S-shaped curve. Okay, Also, it is also maybe we can relate it with the life cycle of the microbes itself. Okay, so do you familiar with microbiological growth curve?
Yes.
So Fandi, maybe. Okay. Yes. There will be different phase, right?
Yes.
In the microbiological growth curve, we have the lag phase, log phase, stationary phase, and dead phase, right? So when we count the colonies, it is incubated in certain time or temperature, right? Those time and temperature is based on the stationary phase of the microbes. So we call it the viability. And then, but even in this stationary phase, the microbe is still growing, right? It's still alive, and it can move. It can move here and there, and some of the microbes dead, some of the microbes is still living. But the count is stable because it is in stationary phase. It means that the dead microbes are nearly the same amount as the growth microbes or the living microbes, right? So when we use this, then the data will be produce the Skewitz curve like the bottom side of this picture. Okay, so we could not use it as basic statistic like normally we do. I think maybe it's from me.
Okay.
Does it answer your question?
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, that was a great question. Is there any other question from the audience? I have, I think I have one more question, to be honest. Not to be honest, yeah. I have one more question. In chemical method validation, we need a standard, right? So to determine the amount. In this microbiology method validation, do we need something just like that, like maybe a positive control or negative control to make sure that our results are not biased?
Yes, especially in identification method, we must do the positive and negative control. I maybe not explain about it in the slide, okay? But I think that is a basic practice for best practice in microbiology. So it will also be applied here in the validation.
Okay, so it's everywhere. Yeah, something that we call standard are always there.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Okay, that's now that was indeed my last question. If there's no other question from the students, from Bapak Ibu, the colleagues, everyone else, and audiences, I would like to again thank Frankie Limawan for the great opportunity to share your experiences and your knowledge in microbiology method validation. It was a very great experience and new knowledge for me myself. I hope that's the same for most of the audiences here. Let's all give an applause to Sir Frankie. You can use the emotion, whatever they are.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, there's another question apparently. Maybe before we actually close it, yeah. Can we use the spread method? Oh, now when we are going to the closing, there are questions coming in. Okay, I hope you don't
Okay.
mind. Yeah, can we use the spread method to validate or verify? If so, is there a source or / reference for the procedure? Because the USP only explains the POR method. There's a question from Rehan.
Okay, it is a great question. For the spread method or the strict plate method, you could use it for validation or verification as long as it is relevant for your methods to be validated, right? Okay, so the USP only explain the POR method. It is right because the USP only use the POR method as POR plate method as the enumeration method. Okay, so if your method, maybe you self-develop a method and you use the strict plate or the spread plate technique, then you could validate or verify it as relevant to the method. So the POR plate method is not mandatory. The technique is must be relevant to your method, whether it is self-developed or reference method. Okay.
Okay, does the answer meet your expectation, Rehan? Okay,
Okay.
let's move to, there's another question from Ujang Karna. In the USP 61, USP 44, index 61, enumeration test, there is suitability of the counting method, section, and neutralization / removal of antimicrobial activity section. How to validate them?
Okay. The neutralization removal of antimicrobial activity is not a standalone method, I think. That is a support method that we use in our method. Okay, so it is like a preparation of our method. So when you neutralize a sample, you expect that your sample is containing or have bactericidal or bacteriostatic effect, and then you use the neutralization, right? Then you kind of neutralize it so it does not interfere with the test result. Okay, so the neutralization is the preparation, not a standalone method. So when your method is using the neutralization, then in validation or verification, you do or treat the sample the same way. Okay, so you don't need to validate the neutralization as a standalone validation. No, just do it as a part of your validation that needs to be validated. Okay. So for the suitability of the counting method, yes, you could use it as the reference. Basically, in microbiology, also the more difference about the microbiology compared to the chemical is the chemical method is have a good harmonization. Okay, so when you take different reference from chemical for chemical validation, example by USP or AOAC or ICH, they talk the same thing in nearly the same way. Okay, but in the microbiology method, if you use the different reference, you get many ways to treat or do the method. Okay, it is not quite the same. In fact, there's so rare method that you use perfectly same method in different reference. Okay, so you could use the suitability of the counting method if you find that the counting method is suits with your needs or the purpose of analysis. Okay. Is it satisfy your needs for the answer? Thank you also. You're welcome.
He's satisfied. Okay. Is there any other question before we actually close the session? Okay. Again, let's give another round of applause to Frankie here. Let's give the reactions.
Thank you.
Thank you for again. Thank you for the sharing. I hope everything got the point to the students, especially the students who are actually taking this course, analytical method validation. Hopefully you might be able to perform it later in the future when you have the chance. So there is an evaluation form which was provided by Bu Wirda Savitri, which you can see in the chat room. So this can be used for you to get your A certificate. So this shows that you already attended this Power Talk, which might be useful for you later in the future. So please take your time to fill the evaluation form. It doesn't take long. It only takes about 2 to 3 minutes. You can also scan the evaluation form here. And that's all. Again, thank you, Frankie, for this for your time, and hereby I close the session. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. That's a great opportunity for me too. Okay, Mr. Fandi, if you don't mind, I allow everyone here to contact me personally, maybe via email if you have any questions, or if you if the question is not showing now, you have the question after you go home, or somewhere in the future you have the question, you could contact me personally via my email. Maybe I drop the email in the chat.
Yeah, please do so. Thank you, Frankie. For you who in the future maybe have problems in the validation of microbiology, contact him in frank.forsmond@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fandi. Thank you, I3L, for this great opportunity.